Good afternoon. How are you? Well, none of us are yet cured from the debilitating results in our nationwide election that chose Trump as president again, meaning despite what they knew about him before. It's a rule of thumb I have that when I exercise, I call it the 2-day rule. And it is if I do something excessive, and maybe I don't appreciate when I do it, I don't feel it for 2 days. And I once asked the doctor, what is that about? Does this happen to others? And he said, well, it takes the inflammation 2 days to manifest itself. So I feel now, on this Thursday, to be coming out of it, if you will, as best I can, and I hope you are too. But a thing I've noticed about how I argue, it is when I go to court on a motion that may have been argued several times before, and I'm looking for the freshness to make the argument again so that the people I'm trying to persuade will see my point of view. But I find that if I'm in a position in which the other side goes first, my Irish kicks in and I have more fun arguing, and I think I'm more interesting to hear. So now we are already into the shit, if you will. That's what they talk about in war, you know. And here's the opening salvo that bothers me. This is the first shoe dropping, I think, because it's central to our definition of the lack of character of Trump. It is Special Counsel Smith is now talking about how he can dissolve the prosecutions that the federal government has brought, one in D.C. before Judge Chutkan, and that's about Trump's interference in the election in 2020. Now, the second federal case is the case before Judge Luce Cannon, as I call her, she's thrown out the case based on, she says, defects in the authority that permit Special Counsel Smith to do what he's doing. So these are the two cases that are pending. Now, let me give you a couple of thoughts about this. The reason Smith is thinking of dissolving it is because of an old Justice Department memo that says, oh, you can't indict a sitting president. Our Constitution doesn't say that. The law does not say that. Vice President Agnew, who was then vice president to Richard Milhouse Nixon, he was charged and indicted while vice president. And he tried to say that you can't indict me unless you first impeach me. And the courts looked at the question from a very able advocate who represented him. And the court said, well, no, they're mutually exclusive remedies. An impeachment can result, if convicted, in being removed from office. An indictment is for a criminal act for which one can be imprisoned. Two different remedies, two different objectives. And so they decided, the court did, that the vice president could be prosecuted. And it was a bribery. And so it went. So what do we have here now? Why would he unravel the case? He is presuming that the new Justice Department, without opposition from anyone, will dismiss it. So they want to dismiss it on their own terms. And the thinking is that they will dismiss it, and the outgoing worthless Attorney General Garland will approve a report that the special counsel will write, telling us once again what a dastardly bastard Trump is, even though we didn't go and convict him. What do you think about that? Another report, dropping the prosecution. And I can almost hear Trump skipping around the circular office that he inhabits next year, saying sticks and stones will break my bones, but You know, this is the problem with America. No damn guts. No where, no how. That's what got us into this, by the way. Because we didn't act on the first impeachment. Didn't act on the second impeachment. Despite the Constitution, no one barred him from running for office. Then, in these various cases, because of whom he's appointed to the bench, favoritism goes to delay the prosecution. First delayed by our Attorney General, Garland, who did shit for 2 years, and then delayed by the courts, often judges that Trump himself had appointed. You hear a conflict of interest here? Do you think no man is above the law in this scenario? I don't think so. And, you know, there is this notion that, oh, well, you see, they elected him because they're not concerned about the prosecutions. Well, that may be exactly right. But what they thought about may have had more to do with the economy and, attacking migrants than it has anything to do with Trump's effort to overthrow the government. But that's not what the debate is, and be wary, because the same media failing to do its job in 2016, in my opinion, failed to do its job this year and last year. And how do I mean they didn't do their job? One, the host comes unprepared. Two, the host doesn't know how to fight or argue against Trump. The host doesn't have at his or her hands the correction, the fact check that matters, nor do they hold specials doing it. And they put on the air bullshit because Trump exults in just being noticed on TV. And we can watch His Highness assume office and how he's going to handle that. Now, there are 2 state prosecutions as well. We have Judge Luce Cannon down in Florida, who's dismissed the case, and is pending before Court of Appeals on an appeal brought by Special Counsel Smith. And the debate will be, what should we do about that appeal? Well, here it is. If you don't continue on the appeal, then her judgment that a bullshit schedule of appointment can limit the authority of a special counsel to do anything. On top of it, you don't get to challenge whether or not you have the case for the president having top secret documents impermissibly and then obstructing the investigation that tried to find out where they were. Now, the other case, non-federal, in Georgia, involves Fani Willis. I think she says it Fani. I apologize. It's been a while since I've had to say her name. And she won re-election. So what is the court going to do with her case? Now, there's probably going to be a motion to say to stop it because A, Trump has immunity. B, he's been elected president. You can't try him while he's president. Bullshit. You can. And we should. And the special counsel in the past have said exactly that. That's what we should be doing. We should be trying them. So, and in the case in Georgia, it's Trump plus 18, okay? Now, then there's also Bragg in Manhattan. We have the DA's office who prosecuted Trump for his hush money in the 2016 election. And Trump is scheduled to be sentenced on November the 26th. Now, are they going to fall out? Now, there may be a motion by the defense, but that doesn't mean you have to follow it. And the president, Trump, when he becomes president, A, I don't believe he can pardon himself. B, he can't do anything with the state prosecution. And if this gets to the Supreme Court, what will happen then? Now, there are a couple of ways to look at this. One is, this is what we expected would happen if Trump won. These dangers and people making these bad decisions and not having the courage to commit the case to whatever it takes. Appeals, hearings, trials to get at the truth. Because a president can be indicted. President has been indicted. President can be prosecuted. And he should be prosecuted. And what does that mean to the presidency? I don't know, the 25th Amendment. He has to sit on a back chair until all those cases are over. So now to cut to the chase, if we're just looking at the the New York case with Bragg and the hush money, what would I do as the judge sentencing Trump on the 26th? Now, being as impartial as I can be, and maybe it'd be a fair criticism that I can't be totally impartial, but the guidelines say 4 years is fair for the 34 counts that he was charged with. And there's all this misconduct in court and everything else. Can we allow, forget all the other cases, can we allow the image of Trump in that case, sleeping, farting, doing the stuff he did, trying to intimidate the jury, showing disrespect for the court and counsel, making threats, can we just let that go by the by? I don't think so. And when he is sentenced, he would be a citizen still, not president. He would, some would say, okay, you sentence him to, say, 4 years, what I propose. Then, what happens on Inauguration Day? Is he sworn into office? And I think that's a nice problem, and that's a problem I'd like to have. So, as from the beginning, when we had cowards in every direction, public officials, party leaders, commentators, the only case that shows a pathway to jail, in my opinion, is the Bragg case. There's plenty of room for everybody to run scared from the house and do nothing to prosecute or advance the prosecution of Trump. But I think the Bragg case, that's the DA's name, that's the case that can go forward. And that's the one we should put our bet on. The days ahead, we'll see what they do to screw it up. We'll see if the judge blinks. We'll see if the prosecution blinks. And I'd rather watch one of these half-baked serials on one of the streaming channels than deal with the unsettledness of how they're going to dispose of the cases against Trump. And finally, my prescription going forward for everything that's messed up in America now because of this election and because of the cowardice and the weak-willed individuals who are in positions to make a difference who choose not to, is the media must calculate the legitimacy of an appearance. Not put it on to get money, to get eyes on the TV set, but only if it is newsworthy. Practice some responsibility. Have yourself prepare. Have the documents, have the questions. Know how to be flexible to ask the 3 questions instead of the 10 you wanted to ask so you get at the truth. But have specials fleshing out as magnificently as the unprepared interviews were of Trump. Compensate by giving a hell of a report on what the truth is, that we were misled by Trump and his minions was otherwise. So, what do we have now? Well, I'll tell you, thank God for our comics. Some of them give a better news report at night than anybody else, a whole bunch of them. And I do blame a too pliable journalistic ethos when it comes to looking at Trump. And it's gotten us into this jam, and we're not, as a nation, underwater yet. But the fact that we start with announcements of how they're going to dismiss the criminal charges against him, that's what this was all about, ladies and germs. That's what it was all about. It was about Trump, not about you or me. It's about him. You get in his way, it can be about you. But otherwise, it's clear sailing for the orange ogre from Mar-a-Lago. So, until tomorrow, I say goodbye to you from my cathedral of trees, and I'll talk to you then. Bye-bye.